Hi, Katie.
Hi, Kayla. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Oh, not too bad.
Happy Friday.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, Kat.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. As folks are hopping on here, in case you're not seeing my note on the screen, feel free to drop your name and I guess your name is already there, but maybe the company that you're from in the chat. There's quite a few new faces, I think, planning on joining us today. So it'll be exciting. We'll give people maybe just one more minute to hop on and then we'll go ahead and get started. Happy Friday to you all. Hope you all have had a wonderful week.
Hope you can't hear my dog snoring in the background.
We cannot.
Okay, good. He's having a good nap, man.
Good for him. All right. Okay, I think we've got a good crew here. Let's go ahead and get started. I need to make sure that I'm recording so that I'm going to double record. Um, okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome. We're really excited that you're all here today. Like I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, there are quite a few new faces on the call today, so feel free to drop an intro into the chat. Before I turn over the mic, I want to just do a couple of quick housekeeping things. So first, just a quick reminder, or maybe not a reminder to those of you who are new to this space. So we have created this bi-monthly brew because y'all asked for it. We knew that, y'all wanted a spot where you could come together and collaborate and connect with other White Cup CRM admins and power users to just share what's working, what's not, and to learn from one another, more than anything. So just to make it super clear around what this is and what it is not, this will never be a super polished production. This is always intended to be just a very organic and, interactive and real conversation among you all. That said, this is also not a spot to request new features. If ideas come up in these conversations that might lend themselves to great conversations with our product team, I am always happy to relay those. I am not the person who can bring those features to light, though. So just keep that in mind as we're kind of having these conversations. This is also not a spectator sport. These kinds of forums only work if y'all come off mute and converse with one another and are willing to kind of roll up your sleeves and have the conversations with one another. I'm here to facilitate and be your guide, but very rarely will I actually have content to present to you. So just keep that in mind as we kind of continue to evolve this community. Um, Again, quick housekeeping stuff. So would love for you all to engage throughout the duration of what we've got, what we're going to be talking about today. Note that we are recording today's session. So if you want to revisit anything or share it with your team, you will have access to it. And as far as participation goes, you've got a couple of options. You can raise your hand if you'd like to jump in verbally. So I'll be keeping an eye on that kind of thing. I think that's just a best practice so that we don't, come off mute and start tripping over one another. So just raise your hand and I'll be keeping an eye on that, or use the chat and I'll be looking at the chat too. So if you have thoughts or questions or anything, drop it in the chat. And if it sounds like something that should be discussed live, I'll just recap it for the crew. And also, please don't feel like you need to have any sort of polished solution or presentation ready. Like, this is a place for quick wins and lessons learned and, even just how you're currently approaching something. I think all of that stuff is fair game and will be super valuable for this crew. One thing that I wanted to make sure this group knew about was in response to some feedback that I got after the last one of these that we had in May. You all asked for a spot where you could collaborate with one another asynchronously. So there were a couple of emails flying, I know, between specific users. And I love that. I love that you all want to collaborate with each other outside of the context of these bi-monthly meetings. To make that easier for you, we've launched a new community forum within our support portal. So this video kind of sort of shows you how to get there. So if you log into our support portal and then scroll to the very bottom, you'll see a community section. And if you click into that, there are a few different boards out there now that are kind of topically oriented around the types of conversations that I would imagine you all want to have with each other. So please feel free to go out there and post, questions or examples, or, later on, I'm going to hand the mic over to Katie from Lepco, and I know that she's got some great resources to share. So Katie, I would definitely encourage you to share those out there if you're open and willing to do that. But just know that this space is yours for the taking, and we'd love to see you all out there and asking questions of one another. And when necessary, folks from our team will absolutely chime in there as well. Okay, so then without further ado, let's jump into today's topic. So today we are talking about workflows and automation specifically. So before we dive into some of the nitty gritty, I do just want to take a moment, and Kat, maybe you'll indulge me by helping me with this a little bit and just giving kind of a quick refresher on workflows. Kat and I were talking about this earlier this week, and we both were like, you know what? It kind of feels like sometimes people overcomplicate workflows and like overthink. Like when you think about workflows and automation, sometimes that can feel really intimidating, but I think the partners that we've worked with in White Cup CRM specifically have done a really great job of just like synthesizing it down to brass tacks. Like, how do we take a process that our company and our people are totally reliant on and find opportunities to make that happen automatically so that we don't have to keep allocating energy and human resources to doing that, those repetitive things over and over and over again. So we're going to give just like a quick refresher on what workflows are, just to kind of tone down the intimidation factor a bit. And then I'm going to turn it over to Katie, and Katie and Kat are going to do a little bit of a show and tell. So Katie from Lepco has done an incredible job of just building out like a bajillion workflows in White Cup CRM. And so I know that she's got a few of those that she wants to share with y'all. And hopefully that'll spark some great conversation about other opportunities for workflows. Maybe, we'll certainly open up the floor and y'all can chime in with your questions for Katie. I'm really excited to get that conversation going. So before we dive into Katie's show and tell, let's just talk about like how automations work in Whitecup CRM. And so this is a super simplistic view, but when we think about automations and workflows in Whitecup, we kind of think about triggers and actions and involvement. So the trigger is the thing that kicks it off, right? So what is the event that is happening in your business on an ongoing basis that you want to spark kind of some downflow reaction, some like chain reaction? And from there, we can map out the actions that we want to happen immediately after that trigger occurs. And then along the way, of course, there are going to be different folks within your team that you want to be involved, or you want to either have visibility into those actions happening or specific tasks or actions that they need to take as a result of that workflow getting kicked off. So in its most simplistic state, this is what an automation is, right? Like it's not super rocket science-y. Of course, there are complexities that you can work into automations, but this is a pretty solid place to start, I think. Kat, anything that you would add here or anything that you might say differently? Probably.
I feel like you said it all. Yeah. Just, automations, I call it, it's kind of your easy button for the most part. What do we always do? What do we always need? And just thinking of what would that trigger be? What is the thing that kicks off the whole thing? I think you covered it all actually. So yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, then without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. And Katie, if you want to go ahead and come off mute, I know that you've got some stuff prepared for us.
Yep, I'm gonna share my full screen, I think. That way I can just make sure it's, doing its thing. And I have a little slideshow here. There we go. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yep. And at this point, it's big enough for everybody to see. I have some screenshots that might be a little bit grainy, but we'll see how it goes. So, I have a love-hate relationship with workflows, but for today, we're going to love them. So, at the company I work for, it's called Lepco. We are a lawnmower distributor is our business. But our goals for using workflows and automations really have two purposes. One is to make the use of White Cups as simple as possible for our users. So they our workflows send reminders. They allow for information to be entered in one place in White Cup, but then populate out into some other places in White Cup so that only a single point of data entry is used. And it also, it's not on here, but some of my examples will show you, we rely heavily on it to send reminders in the form of an email because we're still working on adoption of White Cup at our company. So, not as many people are remembering that they should be going into White Cup to see maybe a list of tasks or activity that's happened in there. So the second thing was to make White Cup do the heavy lifting, sort of a set it and forget it approach. So that's sort of like what Kayla was saying at the beginning there of those repetitive actions. All right, I'm going to give some examples of my workflows. I will share these slides on the community forum, or I can provide them to Kayla to send out afterwards, whatever. So if you can't see very well right now, hopefully you can. Can you see my cursor moving on the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So this first example is what I'm going to call a simple workflow to move along a process and provide instructions. So my recommendation to everyone as they're beginning to get into workflows is to learn to think through the sentence of what you want to do before you begin to build it. So at the top of each of my examples here, I'm giving you the sentence that I'm creating. So here we have when a contact record is created and the field on the contact form that's contact type equals dealer, then we're sending an email to Faith Bigelow, who's our marketing assistant, with instructions for what else needs to be done with that information. So what the workflow looks like on the little icons, the actions. So the trigger was record created, and the action it's taking is sending an email. Whoops. Sorry, it's my first day. If we look at the record created step, the parameters I put in there are what my sentence says. The attribute is the field called contact type equals dealer. And so when that is true, it's sending an email. And this is my example of the email form here. That's probably quite small for you, but it allows me to say who I want to send it to. In this case, it's a specific person. I fill out the subject line, whoops, and there's a place for a message at the bottom. So we have similar workflows that run if a contact is deleted, if a specific field on a contact record is updated, or if an account or a ship to closes and the contacts at those places need to be reassigned or deactivated. I'm using a workflow that's just very similar to this to do all of those things. In a more complex way, we can move along processes and provide instructions. So this is going to take, I wanted it to be big enough so you could see. It looks overwhelming, but really when you break it down, the sentence is simple. In this case, when a services record, one of those service cases, when a service record is created and the field on the form called technical service issue is not empty, then I'm going to go to the next slide here, but so that this screen just shows us what we have here on this trigger record created. On the next screen, I can show you. So technical service issue is not empty. Then the workflow is going to check if the field on that form called status is not equal to closed or resolved. So basically, if it's still open, if it's been closed and resolved, we don't need any reminders, right? If it's open, if yes, it's open, continue along this top path. Okay, so this is a conditional switch that's asking a yes/no question. And if the answer to the question is yes, it's going to continue along the top path. If it's no, then no further action happens. It just stops at that point. But if the answer is yes, we're continuing along this top path. The rest of my sentence is basically then the workflow follows a series of send an email, wait for a period of time, check for something. If yes, send an email, wait, check again, send an email, wait, check again, send an email, and so on. These are a different set of waiting and emails. If the answer at this point was no, it's sending different emails. They say different things. Until the point, at whatever point, these are always checking for that closed resolved status on those service cases. So when it's finally closed, the workflow just stops. No more reminders are happening. I see a hand from Angela. So do you want to hop in, Angela?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. What kind of email is it? Is it sending it to the account manager that says, hey, go?
Yes. I don't have the screenshot of the email. So that email is the way we have it set up is so when somebody creates a service case, some of them are assigned to different people than created the case or the ticket. So that if it's been created and it's assigned to someone, that email is sending to the assigned to person and saying, you have a new case that's been created and assigned to you. And then the subsequent emails are action required, it's still open, action required, it's been a week now, it's still open, and with instructions on what they need to do to move that through to closed or resolved.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yep. So along the same lines, this workflow, I can't even zoom in, like it's so tall. But I love split paths. This is one of the actions that we have on here, and it's a little bit like crazy to set up, but I want to point out that so I have all these little icons here that are the split path action, but each one of these legs of a workflow essentially is a single workflow that's running when it gets to that point. So this is you want to basically use this to bring multiple workflows together into a single one for ease of maintenance. So this one is a record updated is the trigger. And I think, I can't even see. Maybe it's it's record created. It is record created. So in this case, the first leg is saying if the marketing issue, you can see here, the conditional switch, the first one it gets to is if the marketing issue equals this value, 1 day sales, ODSE/FW means something to us. That's all the way up here. The next step is it's assigned to someone. So that leg is being assigned to one person in the department. This next one is saying, is the marketing issue equal to something else, one of the other triggers, and it's being assigned to a different person. So it's making the assignment and then sending the emails through. So this looks complicated, but if you think about it in terms of at the end of each of these split paths, it's just these splits are just allowing you to have sort of workflows that are similar but built into the same one. I heard about this in another White Cup webinar one time about using the split paths. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's amazing. Because I previously had 5 separate workflows that I had to click into every time I wanted to deal with just this sort of set of ones. So it's scary to set up because it looks huge, but it's more simple if you just think about each one of these legs is exactly like the example I showed you before. We've just brought it into several of the same type into the one place to manage.
Sure. Katie, can I just comment about that one? Because I love that. And the split path, probably something that everyone can relate to. One area you'll see us use the split path, and it's probably the one webinar that you may have seen, is we use it in first like sales stages, right? So in this case, it's always the same field that we're looking at, but it's a pick list where depending on what the value is, just a little bit different workflow needs to happen. So that's what Katie's built here. So in the example, you would use this on record updated on an opportunity, and you've got your sales stage. And if you're wanting it to flow through that process, right? Like you've got your sales pipeline process set up and you're wanting to see it move through that pipeline from start to finish, this is a really great way to do that. So using that initial records updated, the record as an opportunity, when the sales rep moves the sales stage from lead into qualify, then we want it to also move from the process stage of lead to qualify and maybe have some notifications based on which stage it's in. So just another example of the exact same format. So it's pretty much the same setup, but just some different actions along the way, looking at that sales pipeline. So yeah, split path is great.
Yeah.
Can we pause there for just a second? Does anyone have any questions? Does anybody want to come off mute or maybe chime in? Where are you? I know we like dove straight into the details there. Does anybody need us to back up a little bit? Feel free to come off mute if that's the case, or plop a note in the chat and we'll field that there as well.
I just had a quick question as to, you mentioned that the service case was prompting how to clear the case, Katie. Is that populated in like on the service case itself, and it's just copying essentially a field into the email as to like what stage the service is at, or how is it have information?
So do I have an example? Let me just think here. I'm gonna do this. Let me just bear with me. Close your eyes while I go to my email.
Okay.
Here, we can do this. Go and just send items. No, yeah, no. Not deleted items. Let's see here. Here. So this email here on my screen is an example of the one that was sent by when a service case was created. So my workflow, somebody in our customer support department created the ticket but based on the fact that she chose the issue in the drop down, she chose the specific issue. My workflow saw that that issue was the issue and automatically reassigned the case to Andrew, this fellow named Andrew.
Okay.
And my workflow sent an email to Andrew and to our shipping department, because in case he's out of the office, they're not in White Cup, but they could see this email and do something with it in his absence. But a new ticket has been created and assigned to you. Here's some instructions for them, or for Andrew, on what he needs to do. So visit it, change the status to in progress, do some things, log notes, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And here are the details of the ticket. If he clicks on this link up here, it takes him directly to the ticket. If he clicks here, he can go directly to that dealership's ship to record in White Cup. So these are all like variable field attribute fields that I was able to do. I think I have a zoom in of that area on one of my slides, but this is the email that my workflow is generating. In 3 days from now, if it's still not marked as in progress, it's going to get an email that there's some red text in it this time, and it'll say action required. And if in a couple days after that, it's still not resolved, another email with some more red text is on it, to try to get them to remember they can't just solve the issue and not close the case.
For sure. Just to follow up on kind of what you're saying there, when the customer service puts that case in, do they know to assign it to Andrew, or you mentioned a workflow?
They don't have to know. The only thing that they have to do is pick what the issue is off the list of our cases form. They just have to pick the right issue, and it will automatically make the assignment based on what we've talked about as a team when we set up our service cases. And the workflows make the assignment. So they just fill out, we tried to make it as simple as possible, that they don't have to fill out all the fields. They don't have to think about, oh, does this go to Andrew or does this go to somebody else? Like, they just pick the issue and the system knows who's in charge of that.
That's golden.
Because of a workflow.
Thank you for explaining that through.
Yeah. Cool.
Katie, can I just call out? Oh, I was just going to call out your little wait. Like, I think that's also an action that not everybody uses in workflows. Because when you're talking about it, wait, after a couple of days, they get the red text email. That's where you have the little wait, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
So again, it's really small on this screenshot, but the hourglass, actually I have one on my next one as well. These little wait functions, you can set minutes, hours, days, weeks, I don't know, at least minute, hours, and days of time to wait between actions. So if you want to say, send an email and then wait for a little while and see if something has happened or not, then you use a conditional switch, a yes, no, and then if it didn't happen, then keep going and keep sending reminders, or a nurture email campaign. If somebody did not take an action on one email that you were expecting, then you can continue the nurture campaign. If they did do whatever the action was after a certain amount of time, then you can close the workflow, have it just stop. So another simple way that we use workflows is to notify someone of an addition or a change to a record that they manage. So sometimes other people make changes to records, or we might have a sync, an API or something like that that's making a change to a record, and we want to notify, in our case, it's our primary sales rep, of the change that happened. So my sentence is, when a ship to record is created and the fields xmark end user equal true and xmark mini fleet equals no, then wait 5 minutes. The reason for the wait, just so you know, is because we have some other behind the scenes processes that run, and we need to make sure that they have all completed before. Then we send an email to the primary sales rep with the information about the change or the addition. So, it's simple, it's a record is created. We're going to wait 5 minutes to make sure all the things that are programmed behind the scenes that happened in our implementation happen. And then I think it's just a 5 or a 10-minute wait. And then it sends an email. At the very bottom of my screen here, you can see, I made this note, use the attribute drop down to add variable data to your emails. So these emails, this is notifying them that a new fleet customer has been created in the system, but it's going to give the name off of that ship to record. It's going to give details. These are all custom fields, obviously, that we've put together for our company. But any of the fields that are on the ship to customer record, you can put in here so that they populate specifically for that record that you're addressing. And you get them off the attribute drop down menu. So that's nice. You don't have to remember what goes in the brackets. So these icons match my sentence. This is what it looks like when you're building out the parameters, and it's really pretty easy. I wanted to call out here when I was putting this together, I wanted to tell you that when you're referencing multiple attributes in a workflow, so you want, when a record is created and it's a ship to record, and it meets this attribute, and it meets this attribute, those are all and statements. You have to read them as ands. There is not an option right now in workflows to have an or statement. So just keep that in mind. In order for your workflow to trigger in this type of example, it has to meet both of these attributes have to be true in order for it to progress, which is what I want in this case, but there is not an option for or statements today. Maybe sometime. So another simple one is to trigger a check of data on a regular schedule and complete the actions if and when they're true. This is the trigger called periodic trigger. And the caveat I want to say to that is I believe that this option is available by request only, and you need to seek training from White Cup before you use it, because it's sort of easy to set it up in a way that can overwhelm the system. If it's checking every minute of every day for something, that's going to bog down the system for you. So I believe you have to ask for this option and have training to use it before you use it. But this particular thing, I love it. I actually have several workflows that use the periodic trigger. It says at 8 a.m. every day, please check to see. It doesn't say please, though. I was being way too polite. Check to see. Customer record has the fields this and this that are true. If yes, if it's true, then we're sending an email to our primary sales rep. So it's looking to see what I'm looking for here is the fleet expiration date. So this ship to record has an expiration date of a program they're in. If it's in 60 days from now and they're not in this other program, then we're going to send the email. So it's checking to see every day, is it now 60 days from now? Is it now 60 days? Every day it's checking that. And if the answer is yes, whenever that is, then it'll send an email to our sales rep to say, hey, somebody's expiration date is coming up in 60 days. We have another one that says, oh, their expiration date is coming up in 30 days. And so that gives them lead time to get somebody renewed in the program. But I love the periodic trigger. It's a good one. We also have it set up to automatically complete or start process stages for our opportunities. So just a note, in case you didn't know, sales process stages don't always automatically close when a new stage is started. You need to close a stage manually, sort of manually, and start it manually. So my sentence, when an opportunity record is updated and these parameters are true, then complete this process stage, and start this one. So we're moving it through from qualification to interest to consideration, I think is how it goes. So you can see some of my screenshots here. This is, I want it to check the opportunity. If these things are true, then it's going to do this. It's going to do it for the next stage, and then it's going to start the next process. So all that is happening when the record is updated is one of our sales reps is going in and they are checking a box that says quote provided on the form. And then all the rest of these things happen automatically. They don't have to move it through the process stages. I know that it should move because they've checked that one box. I don't have too many more examples, don't worry. Here's a more complex one. You can use workflows to allow a change to happen in one place and have that make additional changes throughout your White Cup records. So I have this one at 1900, 7 p.m. every day. It's checking opportunity records to see if it has the campaign tag. That's one of our fields on there. Is that big long thing, demo spring 25 regional X mark. If yes, this is a tricky one. These are my favorites. If the opportunity record meets that parameter, it's changing the record to look at the associated ship to customer record for that opportunity. And if the ship to record, if the field end user prospect disqualified is true, and that also has that same tag on the ship to record, then I'm going to go to the next page here. It's changing back. So it's a yes. If yes, we're changing back to the original record, that original opportunity. And we're going to update that opportunity record so that it is also result lost, opportunity lost reason, it's prospect disqualified, and then we're terminating a process. We're terminating the sales process with that. So we are able to, by using that change record, your drop-down options are, if you have an opportunity and you have an associated ship to on there, or you have, let's say you have a contact record that has an associated ship to or account on there, you can change to look at information on that other associated record to determine if you want to proceed with doing something with that original record, the contact record or the opportunity record. So you change to it, you look for something. If yes, you change back and you keep going with your opportunity. So I also use this with contacts, because we have a lot of, I want to send an email to a contact who works at a ship to customer record that is part of a specific program. So the contact is not in the program, but the business they work at is. So I can use this change record to build a list, right, Kat? Add to list.
Add to list.
We're going to add to list at the very end, right? I'm going to find contacts whose associated ship tos meet certain parameters. If yes, we're changing back to the contact and we're going to add that contact to a list so we can. So add to list is one of the actions on your table.
Yes. Remember to make the list first, because you have to pick the list name.
Right.
Always a good tip there.
Yeah. So you can add your contacts to a list that you then can use the marketing tools in White Cup to send to that very narrowed down set of people who met really specific parameters. All right, that's all my examples. So my pro tips are: test the workflows on yourself first with a sample or a test record. If I'm going to have an email that sends to somebody at the end, I always test them to make with only just myself as the recipient for several evolutions or, triggers, let's say several times that triggers before I'm like, yep, everything's going the way I want to. The emails, those attributes, those custom fields have gone as I wanted to, as I expect them to appear. But test them on yourself. Have some sample records in your system that you can always use to test things on. The next thing is to click through the triggers menu. There's so many triggers that I have not even been able to learn to use yet, but click through the triggers menu and then look at the actions in the actions bank for each one of those, because some triggers have different actions that are available to them for them. So just get to know what your options are. So then later in the future, when you have a sentence you've thought of that you want to build out, you're like, yes, I think there is an action that does that. And then your last one, phone a friend. Sometimes your brain just can't think through the sentence, or there must be a combination of actions here. Or maybe it's a combination of workflows. Maybe you need one workflow to do one thing so that you have the information you need to trigger correctly a second workflow. So I have some of those, that one workflow is in place and does something so that a second workflow can run properly. You have White Cup customer support, and I'm sure they would relish the opportunity to help you think through how to build out a workflow. And you can also contact me. I have my contact information there, or drop it in that new community. I can't wait till there's stuff in there because I have it set up to email me as soon as there's a question. So if I see a workflow question come into that community that Kayla showed us, I will hop in there and help you through that. So how do you say it? What am I doing wrong? I'm happy to help you.
So cool. I think one of the biggest tips I would just add to that, Katie, that you said so many times that is like, it's how I do it too, is make a sentence. Literally put it out in a sentence. What am I trying to accomplish? Just make that sentence. And then I do think then popping through those triggers, you start to put the sentence together in the workflow. So holy cow, that was awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing, Katie.
I hope that wasn't too much, but that's what I wanted to say. I could talk for an hour more on it.
Workflows are fun. Like you said, they're love-hate, where sometimes it takes a little manipulation there, but
And it's really, I will tell you, don't be afraid of it. It's very rewarding when you are like, yes, I did it. I did it. It works.
yeah, it totally is.
Angela, go ahead and come off mute. Looks like you've got a question
Yeah,
there.
well, I wanted to say, like Katie has been, it's been priceless being able to talk through and connect with her through these workflows. I think, throughout all these times, we all kind of figure out what our strengths are, and hers are definitely workflows. I think having her on and sharing today, it made me think of ideas for workflows that I never, ever, ever would have thought of.
Right
And
on.
so that kind of stuff, I think, is really one of the main reasons that this meeting every couple of months is so important. And for having users like us on here sharing like real life, what are we doing? Like it's kind of the example with like, I'm not going too far off the trail, I promise, but like White Cup BI, I can go create reports like crazy. And there are hundreds of reports that are already in there. White Cup came up with amazing ideas about reports, but it's like you got to get the user input. And that's why I think these are great, right? This is like real life cases. Katie is saying, this is real life what I'm using workflows for. And I think that's what's so, so, so important about this. So Katie, thank you so much for jumping on and showing us all these great examples. I've already got an email drafted to you about a question on the service case and using that because we've got some potential use there. And then you guys saw my note about any other people using the service module. I'm really excited to hear very specific use case scenarios around people and their what they're using the White Cup for. So I just want to say thank you.
Right on. Does anybody else have any examples? I know Katie had the floor for a long time and shared some excellent, excellent examples of workflows. Does anybody else want to come off mute and share maybe other examples that they're, specific use cases that you've used automations and workflows to fulfill in your businesses? Don't be shy. Yeah, go ahead, Katie.
All right. I agree with Katie. I think that the workflow to an email can be a really helpful starting point for people. I think we're not alone, Katie, you're not alone in the whole trying to get the user adoption. And I know we've talked about that too. And I think getting that email notification can be helpful, especially for those users who are not in White Cup Daily. So I've created one to go along with the task module. So if Kat or Kayla, if I'm assigning you a task, then I have a workflow that is sending you an email and that's built out kind of like the one that Katie was showing, where it has a link to the task, it has a lot of the information, when it's due, and all of that. And I think that's helpful because no one wants to be all frustrated with me creating a task and then it's sitting out there and you don't even know it's there because you're not logging into White Cup. And again, ideally, we could get away from email and everyone would be living in White Cup and that would be great, but that's not real world right now.
Totally.
And I think that's been a helpful one for us.
I love that example. A thing that I most love about that example, or maybe even like a slight tweak that I would recommend for those on the call who haven't implemented something like that, include the least amount of information possible in the email that's automated with a link back to White Cup. So then they have no choice but to go into White Cup. So then you're creating that like loop of, that's like forcing the function of getting them into the system and getting them,
right,
acclimated to seeing tasks and checking them off in White Cup CRM. I love that though, Katie. Thank you so much for sharing. Anyone else? I feel like I saw a couple other folks come off mute.
Excuse me. Yeah. So we are actually just going live like last week and this week with CRM for our sales team. And one of the workflows we had done is to create follow-up tasks in the CRM for quotes that are created within the ERP. So, we're not using the CRM to create quotes directly. We're just pulling the quote header information into the CRM. So it reads, sees that a record's been created, and then creates, follow-up tasks based on a, set of parameters. Quotes greater than this dollar amount, quotes assigned to these users or these salespeople or whatever. And then, then we have processes where those salespeople are expected to, follow up on those quotes or complete them or close them out, by those due dates. And then, other reports and lists and things like that we use either within BI or the CRM to monitor how they're doing. How many outstanding overdue tasks do they have, things like that. So
That's a great one.
I love that.
Yeah, and Russell, just to, I know that we also have a couple of customers that are using that. The trigger is, record created in BI or record updated in BI. Looking at your ERP, and kind of similar to yours, the one that we do is we actually create an opportunity inside of White Cup CRM using that, and then of course prompting them for a follow-up to go work it so that their actions are captured still in the CRM. And it just moves it over so that they're working the opportunity that began as a quote in BI in the CRM system to push it through to close.
oh, nice.
Yeah. That's a great one.
Yeah, Angela, go ahead.
Yeah, I will say, just to kind of tag on what Kat was just saying with the creating the opportunity. So we went down that path. Just a word of caution, like it's a great idea. With our company, the expectation is that they're creating that opportunity more at the very beginning, right?
Right.
And so I went down this whole path, and support helped me get the workflow created, and we did all this, and then all of a sudden I had one of the managers go, "But wait, isn't that going to duplicate the opportunity?" I was like, "Oh crap!" Yeah, and all that work out the window. So just word of caution: it kind of depends on your company's workflow. Pardon the word, but your processes as to when those opportunities are created. So, and just word of caution.
Yes, no, that's a great comment.
Because we've spent a lot of time creating the workflow, and then, I still have it there in case,
Right.
it's there in the background. And the other thing I wanted to share is the workflows that we do have are super, super, super simple because I am so basic minded when it comes to workflows. I hope, I want to be Katie when I grow up, right? When it comes to work. But ours are real simple because, as you guys either know or will figure out soon, with the BI cubes, you've got activities and then open activities. So you've got two separate cubes, right, for those activity flows. And we needed everything to get over into the activities one in order to report on it, right? So the activities one signifies closed activities and get them out of open. So we've got workflows that automatically complete the activities such as sales calls, the email entry, the task, not the task, I'm sorry, the other, mainly sales calls, right? That mark it automatically complete. and I have to apologize. Most of you guys don't even know me, but I've been, I just had surgery a couple of days ago, and I just got home from the hospital yesterday. I'm on pain pills, so that's why I seem a little bit scattered today. But so yeah, we wanted those past activities to automatically be marked as completed. Then they would flow over into the proper cube into Whitecut BI. And then I could have those Whitecut BI activity reports be accurate and show those, because we have a KPI around activities, a pretty rigid KPI around it. And so that's what we use those for. And then I have one like Katie LaFountain has where the task, like they get an email, and I did what Kayla suggested, and that's what we've done from the beginning. Like I have a link to in the email that takes them back to Whitecut. I'm not going to give them all the information right there in the email. They have to go into Whitecut to see what they actually need to do. But it's really just, hey, so and so assigned you a task. Here's the link, and so now go look at it. So. But yeah, just wanted to share that little bit, mainly about the whole opportunity creation, because it sounded like this amazing idea that I got so excited about. And then went, oh, wait, pause. So, because you don't want duplicate opportunities in a pipeline that's messed up.
Right. Yeah. As long as it fits where your
Yes.
process is, right? It's gotta
Yes.
fit in with work.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Larry Smith. I'm on the road, so I don't know if you can hear me or not, but one of the workflows that I created for the sales team is when they create a new account, or even later on after they've created a new, call it prospect in the accounts, I've created a workflow that allows them to change a field to create an account in the ERP. So what it does is that as soon as they change that field in the account, it automatically sends, or the workflow sends an email to the accounting team. It sends an email to the sales rep with all the information that's pertinent, whether or not it's a net 30, it's a credit card account, various other things like that. I have not set it up to send to the customer yet and given that, or give them the application if it's a credit account or applying for credit. But that's something I could do in the future. But that's worked out pretty well for us, where it's automated basically that function where sales reps don't have to call or email the accounting team. They just change the field in the account, and it automates the process of getting that customer set up in the ERP.
Wonderful. That's a great one, Larry. We were actually just having discussions earlier in an implementation meeting I was in, talking about leads, right? And so when it's a prospect account and when it qualifies, so that's a great example of when it qualifies and it's ready, you need to get it in there, getting that email out to your accounting team to get them set up appropriately.
Awesome. Anyone else? All right. Hearing none, I think we'll go ahead and call it for the day. But before we do, just like last time, for those of you who were here last time, but new to the folks that are new on the call, if you could take just 30 seconds and in the chat, plop in some thoughts or ideas or requests as far as next time's topic. So the next time that we get together will be at the end of September. And so what I will do, so we already have a request in from Angela to cover the service ticketing module. I think that's a great idea. As soon as we sign off here, I'll take all of the inputs that you guys are throwing into the chat right now, and I'll add them in the follow-up survey that you'll all receive because you attended this session. And then from there, you all will have the chance to vote on the topic that we cover next time. And so adding your thoughts right now into the chat will be super helpful in kind of narrowing down the list of all of the myriad things that we could talk about as a group in September. And then once you've done that, have a great Friday and a great weekend. Can't tell you how much I appreciate you all being here. I know it's not insignificant that you're choosing to spend an hour of your day with us. So really appreciate it. And special thank you to Katie for being willing to kind of be our first guinea pig here in terms of showing and telling some of the things that she's doing with Cup CRM. We really appreciate you, Katie.
You're welcome. And definitely, I think more questions that you have about using workflows and stuff, definitely use that community forum. And I can correspond with you there, because if you have the question, maybe somebody else had it as well. And I'll just monitor, I'll just keep an eye on it there.
Right on.
Sweet.
All right. Thanks, everyone. As soon as you're done plopping your ideas in the chat, feel free to hop off. But I'll stick around so that the chat stays open. Bye.
Thanks for training me on stuff, Katie.
Thanks for being here, Kat.
Yeah.